What's up guys, it's that Pan again. I'm here again with another video, and today we're going to be looking at G1 through 5 because I've been thinking, right, and I feel like G1 through 10 is possible if people actually want to see that, just because it's like, but the issue is it's so long. You know what I mean? So actually getting through G1 through 10 would take forever, especially considering how the legions work now, instead of there being like 8 alliances on a bracket that you go through. And usually that was pretty simple, since you could be like, okay, well, these are the top alliances. These are maybe the more minuscule alliances. They can't have as much impact. Now you kind of have to look at each legion. You have to look at, for example, 3 alliances, 3 alliances, 4 alliances, 4 alliances, and you have to say, how can these alliances work together? Who are the strongest players there? Who are the most active players there? Who's probably going to have the most impact? You know what I mean? So it does take a lot longer now, and I think it's like a lot more complicated when looking through brackets than maybe previously with Island Raid. But yeah, we'll still go through it. We'll still talk about it. We'll still give our thoughts and opinions on how the brackets work, okay? And yeah, okay, we are in G1 this time. I'm in Boone with my Panda Guy account, and we're going to be fighting ROK. This is going to be an exciting and very intense bracket. I think this is going to be an extremely hard one at that. We are fighting some furious enemies, right? These guys are gonna be, they're gonna be bringing it. They're gonna be bringing it, and I'm not looking forward to it. That being said, let's just start talking about it. So first off, I do want to actually talk about something. If you guys don't know, there was a little update, and I'll pull it up on my other monitor so I can just like read it out. But there was a little system message, and I think this was the update that they implemented a few days back. And it's a little bit suspicious that they only mentioned it recently within our mail, right? Like as if they didn't want us to complain about it before then. But they basically said, we have updated the alliance system to enhance your gaming experience. I don't know how this is going to enhance it. Commanders can now easily join alliances from other regions. Yeah, that's already known. Note that on special maps such as Island, like it says, wait, it says both the new island and the old island raid, right? So I'm actually wondering if they're going to be adding that map back. Maybe it's going to be specific game mode. I'm not sure, but them saying both of these maps is kind of weird to me. Like they actually included both of the names, so it is a bit weird to me, instead of them just saying the new island map. You know what I mean? That being said, alliance members will not be able to transport resources to each other to ensure the game remains fair. Please keep this restriction in mind when managing resources and strategies. I'm hoping that this is only going to be specific to players who are from other regions, because if they're not allowing people who are from the same region to transport resources to each other because they're on the map, that seems a bit ludicrous to me, and it feels kind of unfair, and it seems like it's really annoying, because imagine you need resources. Oh, let me wait out my battlefield. Let me return to my region real quick. Let my other members return to the region real quick. Let's waste a bunch of ports so we can get near each other. Let me have them send me a bunch of resources, and boom, let me teleport back on the map, waste more ports, etc. Right? And that seems like a very inconvenient way to do things. So hopefully it isn't like if it's specifically to stop people from other regions from transporting resources to each other, that I find extremely fair. I find it extremely fine, right? But if you're stopping people who are from the same region, for example, if we have Boon players, right? If we have a ton of Boon players and we have one guy from region 300, 400, whatever, it makes sense if that player can't be transported resources, or he can't transport resources to us. But otherwise, I find that to be a very unfair method. And I do think that this will kind of stump out some people staying in regions after reset and stuff, like before Island and stuff. So hopefully that will kind of stump out some of the stuff. Either way, we're going to talk about the matchmaking. I'm sorry I've been like rambling on. This is 4 minutes in, dude. 4 minutes in. Okay, so we're going to talk about the thing. Basically, it's Boone, Nude, and we have more. Okay, so first, I'll talk about more. I actually fought them on my Prime Alliance, right? And if you guys don't know, I'm in Region 1 in Prime. I did fight them in like the last bracket. These guys are pretty good fighters. I think they like have a lot of good fillers and stuff. I honestly am pretty confident having them on our side. Like that's actually a pretty good group. Nude, they are pretty big. They are pretty good fighters as well. I expect them to kind of show up, or I would assume they kind of show up with good power, because it's a pretty good group, right? That being said, we're also going to look at Golden real quick. Golden, we have ROK. ROK are monsters. And the thing is, I actually want to say something real quick, guys. I think that, like, off the bat, like even without mentioning this, right? I think ROK honestly has an advantage as a group in general, just their willpower and stuff. So fighting them is going to be extremely hard. But I do want to say, like, there's freaking, I don't know if you guys know, but China or Chinese, they have Lunar New Year's, so the odds of winning, I feel like, already drop off that because now our players are going to have to kind of plan around Lunar New Year's. And I don't know if you guys know what Lunar New Year's is because I didn't freaking know what it was before this. But apparently it's like, I think it's like a week long thing. I don't even know, man. And Nam really needed me to be kind of active for this because they're not going to be as active, which is kind of sucky, dude. Because I don't want to be taking command of the ship really at all. Um, Oh yeah, ROK honestly, as a general alliance, I would honestly argue right now that this is the strongest group in the game. You gotta understand across the board, and not only do they just have insane whales, I feel like the whale power is just very I feel like the whale power is just very like even between them. You know what I mean? I don't know, man. Like I feel like the whale power is very even between a lot of these players. A lot of them have insane armament. A lot of them have insane parts. Maxed out. Even if you look at Boone, you're not going to see that kind of same stuff. And I'm not going to say like obviously Boone's not weak. They have a lot of might here and stuff. But you got to understand, even with like people might consider these guys insane, and I will say Boone are insane, right? But you got to understand, Nam is like he's from Region 4 and he doesn't have his parts maxed out. His armaments aren't bad, but his armaments obviously aren't maxed out either, right? They aren't like 5 million my heroes. I think the only person who might be like close to that or who has that is maybe Samuel, right? And if we're fighting against ROK, who I'm assuming have multiple players on that scale, they probably have the advantage if they go in a multi-tower siege against us. They're going to be probably winning trades, and overall these guys just have a lot of willpower. They spend a lot more in a lot less time. And overall, if you're having to clash with these guys, I honestly think ROK is going to dominate in the field. I think it's going to be kind of hard to overwhelm these guys. And honestly, as of now, like I said, I think that ROK is arguably the strongest alliance in the game. Not to mention, they do have really good alliances on their side. Just in general, like I think that this is going to be really rough. I think some people have seen 140 to 7A. They do have some like whales here too, so I'm not sure if they'll be able to run like double rallies and stuff and get really good trades, and I'm assuming they will be able to for maybe one of these groups. Maybe they have a mega whale who can do that. If they do, that's going to be really impactful in like how good their trades can be and how much damage they're able to do in like a short time. I think honestly playing at mid, I'm very scared, right? Like, I'm scared of how this is going to turn out. I will say, from my understanding so far, it seems that Crimson is going to ally with Golden, and it seems that Azure is going to ally with us. Honestly, I looked between both these groups. I think that it's kind of hard to say. It's honestly hard to say, man. And the thing is, like, I feel like in well brackets like these, if you're not a part of Golden, you're not part of Jade. Usually, like, even if you're a strong group, even if you have mega whales, right? Like, for example, AK and D, they do have, they have. If my freaking thing loaded, I know they have a big bro and stuff. Just imagine his armaments are maxed. Even if they can show up, I feel like these groups are usually used as fodder to kind of drain out the enemy, especially in world brackets. So I feel like usually if you're not a part of Jade and you're not a part of Golden, it's like it's kind of preferred that you just go on an extended vacation. You know what I mean? Because it feels like you're just fodder in a bracket like this. And I'm not trying to like say these groups shouldn't fight. It's really up to them if they want to fight, if they don't want to fight. But overall, like I just think like it's kind of discouraging going into a bracket like this, knowing like your impact is probably more so minuscule, you know what I mean? And you don't have like the same whale power that can dominate the field. You don't have the same whale power that can dominate tower fights. Just in general, it's a really rough situation. And usually I think if it goes through G1 and 2, and sometimes, maybe 3, and sometimes even G4, it's not worth showing up if you're not in like one of the main whale groups. And it's kind of is how it is. Talking about G2, we have Lion, we have BGM, all these groups. I think SSI and Lion are going to be the main ones. I think I was looking. I think I looked at iLaw too. I have to. My freaking loading is so bad right now. Yeah, we have a lot of good groups here. We have a lot of big groups. But the issue I've seen is like I'm gonna be fair and say on H&B side they have Soul, and no offense to Soul, but this is I'm pretty sure Farm Alliance from Region 3, right? I mean, look at like how old a lot of these counts are and like how small their kill count is. unless they're willing to just completely fill towers, and maybe these are alts or something that someone's going to be controlling. I find this to be kind of a like rough spot to be kind of started off in. And I feel like a lot of these alliances, for example, even G3R, no offense G3R, honestly G3R isn't bad. They actually have a lot of good fighters. But I think the issue is like a lot of these groups are from, just in general, I think a lot of the older region groups have kind of evacuated. Most of the main fighters have migrated down, most of the main players, and I think it kind of leaves behind either people who are just wanting some decent matchmaking and stuff, and it's unknown if these guys are going to show up in the bracket. Like, I'm not even trying to like be disrespectful. I'm not sure if these guys are going to show up or not, and they might, they might actually just show up. They might show up full power, but I'm not sure like how many players who remain behind in these regions are actually fighters, because you got to realize how many alliances have migrated out of a lot of these older regions. So I feel like groups like that, like even if you have R6 on your team, right? And I think they might be here. Yeah, food porn. I think some people actually have migrated back to R6, so that might not be the same case. But the thing is, you got to understand a lot of these groups who migrated out, they don't leave a lot. They don't leave a lot of their fighters behind, because most fighters want to actually remain with their alliance, remain with their main fighter alliance and stuff. And I think that's just going to be kind of hard to find a lot of firepower there who's going to be willing to show up, especially in a well bracket, like where that, like I feel like for normal groups, your morale drops significantly when you see a bracket like this, and you just aren't as willing to kind of show up and put in a good fight. Okay, so we're going to look at Jade now. Jade, we have Lion, we have Ilaw, we have SSI. I think these groups together, honestly, are really big. I think these are some pretty big whale groups. And honestly, combined, I actually would argue that these guys stand a chance. I think my biggest concern about these groups is I don't know how many mega whales they have who have crazy armaments, right? And that's really what they're going to need if they're fighting against H and B and stuff, especially if they get spread into a lot of towers into a more long-term fight. It's going to be kind of hard. I know that they do have some insane players here, but I can't really predict how this is going to turn out. I just can't, I just can't predict how this one's going to turn out. I mean, honestly, I would actually say that H&B, I have more faith. I feel like H&B has more odds here to maybe win, just purely based off the fact that it is one alliance, and I think coordinating all three of these groups will be significantly like challenging. Although, like I said, they are pretty strong. Like, even this alliance in itself is 11 billion, has some crazy whales there. This alliance, 9 billion might, crazy whales. Lion, 8.5 billion. They were 10 billion for Dark Seal, so I'm guessing they dropped might. They were going hard though. I don't know if you guys saw. And that's one of my issues too. I don't know if they still have the manpower right now to kind of power through as much as they would like to, because they fought so hard in Dark Seal. And I mean, they are whales, so I'm not going to underestimate them. But I think that they did kind of did use a lot of their they use a lot of their manpower, you know what I mean? So it's going to be kind of hard to guesstimate. So I'm not sure about these other alliances, right? Like, I don't know, man. I don't know if they have like the whale power. That's usually what it comes down to, right? If you don't have that whale power, I mean, they have evil here. So obviously, like, if this legion can rely on this evil guy to kind of be active and like actively rallying, actively garrisoning, even if it's just one tower, they could maybe rely on him to make their trades vastly better, and that could be a good way to drain out a team like Jade or something, But overall, I think that this is kind of unfortunate for like Crimson and like Azure, because in this type of bracket, it's just hard to like have much presence and really do a lot. I mean, AOW, like, they have some like really big whales. Obviously, they have Walter, they have Deathlock, they have Walter B. Savage, Sir Jimmy. I know that these guys probably are really strong on their armaments, but it's really also, like I said before, a lot depends on the morale kind of going into these brackets. You know what I mean? If these groups are very willing to fight and actually put up numbers, or actually willing to lose their troops over a whale fight, most of these groups aren't. Also, sorry guys, Otis, stop. Sorry, my freaking dog's been like licking himself for like 30 minutes straight, dude. Okay, G3. I would argue that G3 is pretty similar to G2, except I would say that DHX has DevB And when I say DHX like that, I would say it's kind of comparing it to H and B, right? I think that Dev B obviously has like whale power, right? For example, they have Land Shark. Land Shark, I would say like Land Shark, man. I talked to Land Shark a few months ago, and he said that he'd be working on his armaments. So I'm gonna be guessing that his armaments are pretty good, even if they're not like 5 million my heroes. I'm gonna be assuming that he's pretty set, and his like parts and his gear is also insane. So overall, when it comes down to that, you also got to they can maybe run double rallies with DHX. I'm not sure about Look. I know a lot of Look migrated out, so I'm not sure like who remains and like who the fighters are that remain. So I guess that's kind of to be seen. But we do have Dev B, and hopefully DHX can be like very reliant on them. Hopefully Look does show up as well. And DHX, everybody kind of knows they do have some really good whale power. So if it comes down to a 1v1, this is going to be kind of hard. And we do have Evil here, and Evil's a pretty big group. And like I said, it's similar to G2 because it's kind of like Jade and G2 with like all these alliances that are pretty big. But not mega well status either. You know what I mean? And that's gonna be my main issue here. I'm not sure if they have the whales to kind of go into an extended fight with DHX. And it's like you can have that one mega whale, right? You can have that one crazy whale who has insane gear. Like this guy is jacked. But the only issue to have when kind of looking at this is even if you have this one player, so what? You know what I mean? So what? Imagine like because the thing is, it's not like you're doing one tower fight unless like Golden just decided to hold up at their checkpoints. If they go up mid, they're gonna be spread into multiple towers. You can't have Venom. You can't have that guy who's like maxed out. Probably I'm guessing has some insane armaments. You can't have him holding every single tower. You know what I mean? And I think like if it comes down to an extended tower fight and they're spreading them pretty thin, it's gonna be kind of hard for them to really take really good trades. And even like HXG, like I know these guys are really big, but I think I've mentioned this before. One of my biggest issues is just maybe the lack of mega whales, you know what I mean? And I think they'll have to rely on these other groups with like the main whales. And even if they do have like really strong players, it still comes down to the fact that if you have like a 3 million might hero, it's not going to matter much when you're fighting someone with a 5 million might hero. If you have a 2 million might hero, you're going to get crushed by someone with a 5 million might hero. Your trades just aren't there, you know what I mean? And I think that's kind of the issue when you're coming into brackets like these. It's just, it's not promising, and it's not very reliable. And I just like I find it kind of disparaging. I kind of find it to be a disparity for these groups to kind of be going into this type of bracket. And I think it's the same situation, I don't even think like Azure and Crimson are bad. I actually think that I looked through them, and shoot, I kind of forget, but I think that they had some whale power. I just think that they don't have the whale power that you need to really make big strides in this type of bracket, you know what I mean? And I think it's kind of pointless at that point to really want to show up, you know what I mean? I think it's just discouraging to want to kind of show up, and that's like the biggest flaw with this matchmaking system and like this whole Legion thing. It just puts a lot of alliances in a bad spot, and I feel like it just puts you into like a spot where you just don't want to play for the month. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, well, you screwed over my freaking month of waiting for Island, so I guess hopefully next Island my matchmaking's better. And if you somehow get on the winning team, you might still be put into a winner's bracket, and then you're screwed over for the next matchmaking, right? And it's like, what is the point at that? What is the point at that in that regard? All right, G4. I will say Jade has like a lot of jacked whales kind of going through here. I remember playing with this guy. This dude's gear is insane. I'm sure like some more of a LAS has some insane gear. I mean, we can look through the alliances here, but I don't think I really need to kind of get across my point. Like there's a lot of T6 players. There's a lot of T6 players, and like I said, they have some jacked whales in general. So just it's going to be kind of hard to fight a group like this. I did look at Golden, and Golden, like they have some honestly really good groups. I would say the biggest concern I'll have is I'm not sure how strong they are. Like I know that Nom Nom is a big whale. I know that Dart's a big whale. I'm sure some of these other guys are big whales as well. But I'm not like, I feel like armaments are like the hardest part to kind of determine, because no matter how good you are at like looking at players, kind of like profiles and stuff, you can't see their armaments. So no matter what, you can have maybe, let's say this guy, yeah, purple gold parts and all that. This guy could have insane armaments, and I've seen it before where like you might have gear like this, and then you have like a 5 million my hero. So sometimes it's kind of hard to see that, and it's kind of hard to determine off that. We also have Hans' old account here. I know Hans didn't work on armaments before he quit, so or not Hans, Envy, sorry, I'm getting names mixed up. I know that Envy didn't work on his armaments before he quit, so I'm not sure if like this account's gonna be jacked. I'm pretty sure the guy who bought it like grinded it up though, so I'm pretty certain that it's gonna be interesting here. I honestly can't determine who's gonna win between these two. I will say I looked through some of these other groups here though. Like we have HM. I feel like you have a lot of really good whales here. Honestly, I think that this brackets would have more. I feel like there's going to be more chance for these alliances to maybe compete here, especially considered these aren't like some of the main whale alliances. Like they're still whale alliances. I would just say they're not the main ones who are like kind of the most threatening in the game. So I feel like showing up at least isn't like as discouraging for some of these groups as long as they actually have some of the proper whales. I think that Crimson, like so far from everything that I've seen, I can't really determine how strong they are unless like I see their armaments, you know what I mean? But looking at like Azure, I'd have more confidence in saying that these guys can show up and like provide pretty good damage. Like I know Tink is a pretty big whalish gal. I looked at two. I don't know if this is an L or an I, but I looked at two LS. I think like it might be capital L. We have Toto. This dude is an absolute beast. Look at that. Shush. And I think we also have what I looked at. Was it THL? Yeah, we have Purger here. He's a pretty big boy. And we also have Soar. You know what I mean? Like these alliances in themselves are pretty good. We also have Soar though, and I think like the one thing I've always had a problem with Soar. Like I don't even have a problem with Soar, but the only issue I have with him is I think they I'm like stumbling my words so much. I think that they lack the actual mega whales they need to compete in brackets like this. So if they can crutch on like these other alliances that are maybe able to show up, hopefully the whales are active, hopefully they can run rallies, hopefully they can defend towers, maybe they can have a pretty good impact in this bracket if they can choose one or the other. I mean, honestly, choosing either of the whale alliances should have a good fight here. I think either of them should net really good fights. Honestly, I can't really determine who's going to win here. I'm not sure who I would guess on. If I was to guess, I would actually say Jade is maybe the stronger group, just because I think they have maybe the higher T6 base and stuff, and it looks like they just have a lot of whales, a lot of fighters, and I'd honestly be pretty confident in betting on these guys, although I can't really be certain. If they get Crimson or something, maybe their chances are lower, because I feel like as of now, like looking at Azure, I have more confidence in Azure kind of performing well than like Crimson. And that isn't even to say Crimson's weak. It's just I don't see any of those kind of crazy whales that I see with some of these other groups, like, and you can't even determine off parts anymore. But it's so hard to determine otherwise, because if you have like really bad gear, usually your armaments aren't really worked on that well. But then again, some people just don't work on their parts as much, and now they just only grind up armaments. So it's kind of hard to give an accurate guesstimate. But I would honestly say Jade has more in my favor. These guys are also younger whales, some of these groups. So I usually more threatened by like younger whales than like older ones that kind of like slowly grind up their accounts, you know what I mean? And finally, we're going to look at G5 and we're just going to talk about it. So, alright. Alright, so first off, we're going to be talking about Jade. Okay, so I looked at Jade. I would say I looked at 690. I actually think that 690 seemed like a good ally to have. Like I was looking at through, I only scanned them down a bit, but it looked like they had a lot more fighter, a lot better of a fighter focused group and stuff. So honestly, this is going to be pretty interesting. I mean, they do have BTW on their side. I think BTW has lost a lot of members, but BTW is still strong. They still have a lot of good fighters in general. You know what I mean? Like, even if they've lost a lot of members, I think their fighter base is still pretty good. I think the biggest issue right now that BTW might actually face is I think they lost someone like LeBron, right? And I think LeBron probably was like the main garrison captain, main rally captain and stuff. And I think, I think that's going to be their biggest impairment kind of coming into this. because if you fight a group like Golden, like HAO is super active. Sorry, not HAO. Well, HAO in general is active, but MK is extremely active, right? He's a really big fighter, and his armaments are basically maxed if they aren't maxed, right? And I feel like fighting against these guys is going to be really hard. I looked through the other groups as well. Like if it was purely BTW against HAO, I would argue that HAO would probably maybe lose out in like field control, but given that they have this spread in alliances, and the alliance spread is pretty good, like I think there's a lot of T6 players kind of spread between these groups, and if these groups actually show up, I think that BTW is going to have a hard time if like the actual players and the actual fighters are showing up and like try to push the field a lot, maybe drain them out slowly, and like I said, not to mention, having a player like MK is super significant, and if he's able to be active during the main fights, I think that Jade is going to have a hard time. I think it's still possible for Jade to overcome that wall, especially if they're able to just like kind of spread them out in towers and catch MK offline. But I think a player like MK is like such a big threat, man. I think it's underestimated how big of a threat these kind of guys can be, and I think they're in for trouble, you know what I mean? I think they're in for like a hard time, not trouble, just like a hard time, hard trades. And it's really going to depend, because I can't obviously say how like strong BTW is, how good their armaments are, because maybe they do have some insane armaments, but I don't think they're like mega wells, right? Like I don't think they're maxing out their armaments, getting them to 5 million, 6 million might. So it's going to be kind of hard for them. I did look through the other groups as well. Like I will say this bracket does have a little bit better spread. And I was looking through, I think it was, Crimson. I don't know if it was here. I mean, they have a pretty good T6 base too, honestly. I feel like there was a whale I saw, and I have to figure out where this is at. Okay, yeah, I was looking at this guy. So Chupi looks like a pretty good whale. I think if like they can crutch this guy, and overall, like I said, they have a good T6 player base. They also have R4W. I don't know a lot of these other alliances, right? But I looked through them. They seem pretty solid. You know what I mean? They look like some solid groups. My boy RRZ. I think I recognize that guy. R4W in general, I recognize these guys. They usually show up pretty hard to fight. I think as long as the odds are at least favorable, they'll probably show up. And if they do, I think this is going to be kind of favorable for Crimson. And if Crimson kind of allies with, honestly, either or, I think that they can maybe have good results, kind of depending on how they play. But that's really going to depend how they kind of aim tower fights, how good they are at like field control or not. And then we also look at Azure. I think Azure's here. We'll look through them. We have LM4S. I always like LM4S. They always seem like pretty good fighters here, or at least pretty solid fighters. I forget if they have any wells. I think that's gonna be their big issue if they don't, and they might actually not have any. Yeah, okay. This was the group that I had a problem with. I looked through them, and they don't have any. They don't have any crazy wells. You know what I mean? That's gonna be my biggest issue. Them not having any crazy wells. So I'm gonna kind of just be looking forward to this. I think that honestly Crimson's gonna be maybe the better or more appealing ally simply due to that factor. Like I don't think they have any big crazy wells here, but like I said, it's pretty hard to tell without being able to see like their actual armaments. You know what I mean? I feel like if you want to ally somebody, you should check them out. And you should be like, yo guys, let me see all your top players' heroes. Let me see that real quick. Make sure your armaments are equipped, and then we'll decide who we're going with. Okay, it seems a little stupid, but yeah, I don't know, man. This is gonna be kind of crazy. Honestly, this bracketing, I would say like between the whale alliances, this is maybe some of the more interesting bracketing I've seen so far in Island. But we'll have to see, okay? We'll have to see. I think G1-5 is going to be pretty intense. I do feel bad for all the other alliances. I feel like Crimson and freaking Azure are always catching the slack, though. Is it just me, or are they always just thrown overboard? And they're just thrown to the dogs. They're thrown to the wolves, and they're just left to, like, they're left to be eaten and rot and all that. Okay, that is it to the video. I just blabbed for a bit right there. I do appreciate you guys as always. For watching. Hope you guys did enjoy, and I will see you guys in the next video. You guys give me your thoughts. You guys tell me if you got a pretty good island, or if your island matchmaking was totally terrible. And yeah, I do appreciate you guys. You guys have a great day or night though, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.